republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mary,
Present.
Jenna,
Here.
Mary, here.
Bob.
Here. Next up, we have citizen input. For any citizens who wish to make a comment, state your name and address for the record, please.
Northcutt and the future. Please, I am. No one.
Thank you very much.
All right, I just wanted to follow up from the meeting last month. Jenna, you said that you wanted to call a special study session to go over the chicken ordinance and nothing has been brought up. I'm wondering when we can expect that, like.
I'm open to still having that. My other council members, we need a majority of the council members to have a special study
I
session.
think if you're up for it, you've got the majority.
That was not my recollection at the end of the meeting, last meeting, but if my other council members, they're here right now, they can speak to that.
You have to call the meeting, Jenna.
Right.
The ordinance that was presented was a good ordinance. If you think it's not perfect, call the meeting and we'll be there.
So can we expect that like next month or
I'm not gonna say when, but
sooner rather than later, I'd hope?
I am open to having it. I really can't say when.
Okay, I'll follow up with you. Thanks.
Okay.
And thank you for clarification because it was passed on the first reading and it wasn't passed on the second reading. It was pushed off to a,
Thank you. Any other
Thank you.
citizen input? Moving on, I'll be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda to include the minutes of the June 2024 town council meeting and claims totaling $2,702,791.67.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, including the minutes of the June 20th, 2024 town council meeting minutes and claims totaling $2,702,791.67.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mary,
Hi.
Jenna,
No,
Mary. Hi.
Bob.
Aye. Next up, we have announcements. National Night Out is Tuesday, August 6th, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Central Park. We are also accepting applications for Historical Society members.
Just to clarify, that's the Volunteer Committee Historical Society that operates under the Historic Preservation Commission.
Will that be posted on the town council, the town website?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we will.
Thank you. Next up, we have town council reports. We'll start with Ward 2, Councilwoman Tim.
Thank you. I would just like to commend all of our department heads working together and collaborating. It's very nice to me, and you know I'm going to look over your way, Fire Chief, and you, Police Chief. I love to come to these meetings and listen to how we're collaborating among all the different committees, all the different department heads to make Dyer better. It's amazing. If you can, for anyone watching on, you need to come to some of these meetings. It is amazing how they collaborate. Just listening today about this, how Public Works works alongside. If you don't hear this, if you don't participate, you don't know this. And this is your tax dollars. These are people working very hard for you. So thank you so much. I commend you. I also want to say, hey, I saw Brian showed a overhead drone view of the two-stage ditch. Those yellow flowers are stunning. They're coming up good on the one side that got mowed. So that's pretty nice. Also, the community market, very fun. Thank you so much. It's going really well despite the weather being really weird. Hopefully we'll get some better weather the next one. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up, we have Ward 3, Councilwoman Grzovich.
I have no report to make this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we'll go to Ward 4, Councilwoman Tanis.
A lot going on. And number one, I'm glad that Lauren is here because I'm hearing from a number of people in my ward who live right up against the state line who border the forest preserve. And guess what they want to have? They want us to move forward with the chicken ordinance because this is a perfect place. They back up against the forest preserve. They don't have any neighbors behind them. They only have neighbors next door. And a lot of them have shared with the fact that they've talked to their neighbors and they are looking forward to it. So I think it's something that we need to go back and visit and make sure that we are listening to our residents because they're adamant about doing this. And I think it's a really good thing. We had so many good ideas and it took us 6 months to get to where we were and then it stopped. So looking forward to that. Yeah. The other thing is, we have another issue down in our area because we are next to the forest preserve and there are so many deer there. And people are inviting the deer families into their backyards and they're feeding them. And I've heard that from a couple of people, which is kind of interesting. So, are we harboring deer? I'm not sure, but there are some families who are doing to do that. So it's kind of interesting to hear that story. I want to thank everybody that coordinated during the storm last Monday. Oh my goodness, from the police and fire chief who warned us. We were told to take cover because there was a tornado in the area. So I want to thank everybody. And again, it's a collaborative effort by everybody. Today, the cleanup is still going on. I know it's going to take a while to do that. But again, it's all of our departments working together to make Dyer better. I went to AIM Board of Directors last week and learned a lot about other cities and towns, particularly Greenwood, Indiana. They gave us a full report on how they are working together, and that's a good sign. So thank you.
Thank you. I don't often make a report. I will say to all of our staff on the outside, your storm restoration work is commendable. Thank you for that. I would also like to commend our park board, presence in the audience tonight. It looks like we are moving ahead with Sandy Ridge Playground. That there was a bid out for that was approved. We have the equipment for that, so those residents should see that by the end of the year. There was a bid for a pickleball court, a new amenity in Hearthstone, which will be a great addition to everything that the park board and the parks have to offer. And it looks like there is a special session to look at some plans for possibly heritage estates. So I'd like to thank the park board. If we can wrapping up this year with 3 really, 2 park restorations and a brand new amenity following this past year where we had new parks and new amenity. You guys have been a good job. Next up, we have clerk treasurer.
Yes, I have a few things. We will be going out to public hearing for our budget on October 3rd at 6 p.m. And then the second one will be at 10:17, our regular council meeting for the budget. Then we have some donations. We did get our $18,000 from the St. John trustee for the fire. So that money did come in. I think we probably should have a motion to that, Adam, or no?
No, that's under
Okay,
a contract.
It
you
is. I
already
just want to make
approved.
sure. And then our donations is a total to the fire chief, $705 at his discretion. Police chief, $200. And for National Night Out, $1,300. If I can have a motion for all that, that's a total of $2,205.
Make a motion to approve the donations.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mary? Hi. Jenna?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Jenna? I'm sorry, Bob.
Aye.
I also have our CCD was approved from 4.9 up to 5% per 100. So that is a good thing by the county. We got it in our paperwork. And then I have some conflicts of interest that I need to have just stated. No one needs to approve them or anything, and I will download them into Gateway. Jeff Sentian works for Superior and Dyer here at the location. And then Jenna, with Lake Central Education Foundation. She does work with the schools with Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Wisdom?
Yeah, Wheel of Wisdom.
I was thinking of the game show, I think.
Yeah.
And then Jeff Decker is a member of our utility board and he is back with River. That's all I have for that.
Thank you. Next up, Frank, do you have anything to report aside from the meeting memo?
Probably want to just make mention of the storm. I think everyone else here pretty much has. I believe at this point, we have all of the town facilities and services operational back again from the storm, as well as I believe power in all the areas that we're aware of, including town facilities, has been reestablished. And I want to kind of echo some of the statements that were made up here in regards to the work that the staff, the department heads and staff did during that period. I mean, it was all hands on deck. Kudos to everyone, Public Works, fire, police. I mean, everybody was out in earnest, mitigating the immediate public health and safety issues. And then obviously getting everything restored. And obviously Public Works is going to be continuing on that path here for quite a few days forward to get everything put back together again. But I mean, it was just an incredible job. And that was something that you had mentioned, Councilperson Tim, is that there's just a lot of that teamwork that happened during that period. People were up all night into the morning and obviously into the days forward, putting everything back together, make sure everybody's services were restored. So thank you for that. Want to make one announcement on Hart Street. Certainly not an announcement people like to hear about, but we have a closure on Hart Street that's going to happen this upcoming week. It's going to be the last closure on that project. They're going to barricade Monday evening, but it'll be open during the day. And then they'll begin construction on Tuesday. Hopefully they finish on Tuesday, but depending on the complexity of the job, they may need to go into Wednesday. And then after that, we should be done for any closures on Hart for that project. I appreciate everybody's patience with all of the lane shiftings and closures that we've had here recently. It's certainly been a challenging year for that kind of thing, but the upside is a lot of infrastructure being upgraded and improved. And I think that's a great benefit to the town. And the last item is also upcoming this week is CCMG 2024-1, which is our resurfacing projects. That's our largest resurfacing projects that we've had here in the town. About 3.5 miles of roadway that's going to commence what's being called phase 1, which are the streets to the north of 30. And they will start on this coming Monday, and it'll probably go for 4 to 6 weeks. And then they'll shift into phase 2, which would be those roadways south of US 30. Basically, it's a roughly $2 million project where about half of those monies were grant monies that the town received to do this work. So collectively, we have close to 5 miles of roadway that we're getting done this year. There's about 3.5 of it, which to my knowledge is as I think we stated before, the most miles of roadway that we've done with resurfacing and reconstruction since I've been here. So I think we're seeing a lot of progress with that. But hopefully those projects being resurfacing projects shouldn't be too disruptive. That concludes my report.
Will they be done before school starts? I don't know what time school starts, but.
Yeah, it'll go into, they will not be the phase 1 will probably come close, but phase 2, so we'll have overlapping into and again, it was discussed at our meeting with them. And we've had this previously, and they'll take all the, notify the school and make sure that they're aware of it for transportation and access throughout the project.
There'll be any disruption in the bus service.
Yeah.
They won't have to change anything on a grinded new surface.
Perfect.
So it should be bad.
They're pretty, it's
Are
not
the
like,
residents notified then, really? Okay.
We passed out letters to the people on the north, to the people on the south. We wait until we get a little closer.
Sure.
And then within the letter, it says you will get a letter from Milestone, the contractor that was selected. And they already passed out their letter. And then it says within getting that letter, they put signs out, no parking. And within 48 hours, they started.
And your personal cell phone, right, in case there's a problem. I'm good.
and all the letters are hand delivered too, of course. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Public Works.
yes, absolutely.
Collaboration.
Especially this time with all the streets that we have, over like 16 streets. I mean, that was a big effort, but.
Thank you. Next up, town attorney.
Yeah, just a couple things. Number one, We closed on the 2145 Hart property last week, so the town now owns that. And after some discussions with the title company, it prepared the proper sales disclosure and did not include the proration, so we won't in the future be faced with the same issues we have in the past with the county not knowing we don't owe taxes on it. So that should be taken care of.
Well, I know it with me since I talked with the title company and I was just like, we shouldn't be giving anybody a check for paying their taxes.
Yeah, and they realized that, and then the sales disclosure was the other missing
Yeah.
element, which it's their job to prepare.
Thank you for taking care of that part.
Well, thank you for your help. And then the other thing is among the statutes I went over last month, there was one that allowed for the adoption of rules governing public comments. However, those have to be adopted by the council and posted. If that's something the council would like me to start for a future meeting, I can begin that process of drafting. I don't know what the sense of the council is on that. I think it's probably a good idea, just my advice to you.
So one of the things that we had talked about was the people that have citizen input, that according to some of the other organizations that they always say, you have to, the citizen input has to be related to something that's on the agenda.
That's technically not correct, because it's a
Okay.
First Amendment right. And you can't
Yes,
limit
that's what I'm
someone's
thinking.
free speech. What you can do is impose reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions. So a
right.
time limit, and obviously to preserve order and things like that is
Yes.
perfectly permissible.
Adam, some of those things you stated at our last meeting that were an update to the council. I asked for you to send me those.
Oh, okay, remind me, I'll get those to you.
Okay, thank you.
And that's all I have.
Next up, department heads, public works.
Just piggyback on what Frank had described before with the storm. Again, we are continuing to pick up branches. We've been working till 7 p.m. Each and every day since the storm has occurred on Tuesday and Wednesday. And we'll continue that process the rest of this week. Saturday, we'll probably have crews out for at least half the day for sure. It may be from 7 to 3, depending on how much they can get picked up the next couple of days. But again, that's what our game plan is for right now. And then as time goes along, we'll assess and see if we have to continue that into next week. We did have a water main break on Wednesday that kind of short circuited a little bit of the pickup effort, but that was on Kelly Place, and that was started around 1:30 p.m. and was completed by 7:30. So that was taken care of yesterday. Flags and banners on Calumet Avenue and Sheffield Avenue. Some have been torn or lost due to the high winds. So we're in the process of replacing those tomorrow. We'll get that taken care of. Street signs that were damaged, kind of bent and stuff like that or lost, are currently being fixed right now, and that should be finished up by tomorrow, hopefully, or even into the next week, depending on, again, there's signs that we just don't see. Generator replacement project for the sanitary lift station started last month. There's 3 generators that we're replacing currently this year, one at Rockwell, one at Meadows, and then the other one is at Briar Ridge South. The one in Rockwell has been completed. The other 2 are currently being worked on, and they will be finished probably by August, September. These were being replaced due to age and a lot of maintenance costs. So again, the idea is to replace these 3 this year. They're like around 20 to 25 years old. So we're going to do the 3 this year, and then over the next couple of years, we're going to look at other lift stations and those need to be replaced as well. The data for the water service line inventory, that's continued to get collected. So far, we've collected 3,146 out of the 6,374 water services, which is around 49% have been completed. And we still only have 2 lead services at this time. So again, we're trying to get that all done before the October deadline. And it seems like we're definitely making headway. So again, probably starting next month, we may start knocking on doors and trying to get a little more citizen input, because again, it's starting to dwindle down a little bit from the input. So, but we'll definitely get it all done before October's deadline. That's it for today. Thanks.
Thank you. Parks?
During the July Park Board meeting, we had two bid awards that were granted that President Starkey mentioned. One was for the Hearthstone Pickleball Court, and that was awarded to Grimmer Construction for $263,517.30. The second one was a Sandy Ridge Park Improvement Project, which was awarded to George's Landscaping for $315,108 and no cents, 0 cents. Additionally, the design work is still progressing on Heritage Estates Park. We have a special meeting tomorrow to go over some changes and hopefully approve a design so we can move forward with that project and try to get that completed in 2024. For our activities, our summer camp concluded today. And last week we had our camp challenge, which we invite about 500 kids. We invite all the local Ys, and they have a big activity day over at Northgate Park. That was last Friday. Our last community market is July 30th. We had to cut one short because our fifth one would have fallen on National Night Out. So we have one short this season. Our softball tournaments, they're still going on. Right now, we're one of the sites for the NSA World Series that started on Wednesday, and that will go through Sunday. There will be a small break in our tournaments. Middle of August, they'll start picking back up again after this week. The Elmer Miller Splash Pad, we got some usage numbers. For our first billing cycle, they use 475,094 gallons. Is covered from May 15th to June 14th. And remember that it did not open until the 24th, I believe the date was. So there's about a week or so in there where there was just no usage at all. And then from June 20th to July 3rd, we've used approximately 248,190 gallons. That's within our projections for the budget. So we're still on pace to be fine with our current numbers. And briefly touch on our volunteer committees. Summerfest committee, total expenses thus far for the 2024 event was $100,165.44. And our total revenues were $101,025. Our cash reserves currently sit at $16,560.02. Dyer and Bloom, the 2024 Curb Appeal Award winners were announced last week. Signs were delivered to the award-winning homes. A few members also cleaned up at the western entrance at Autumn Chase Park. Park maintenance is going to get some pavers out there and some mulch to spruce that up. And then touch briefly on the 2728 Hart Street property, the old Baptist church. No, I think it was Baptist church. We're still waiting on appraisals. Agreements have been signed. They're over to the two appraisal companies. Their lead time on it is 4 to 6 weeks. So we're kind of at their mercy with that. As soon as we get that, I will forward the report to the council. And then that's pretty much all I have. I'm sorry if you have any questions.
Thank you. Next up, Brian Layton, operations.
The Plan Commission this last week approved the final plat for the Orthodox Edition. It's a 3-lot subdivision. They call me and tell me they'll be submitting site plans soon for the daycare they're gonna start with on one of the parcels, and then we're gonna be setting up a meeting with them soon. They want to discuss the acquisition of the parcel that the storm board's gonna get to put the lift station on Calumet Avenue. So that'll be a good thing to get that going. We had 303 calls for service for code enforcement with 1 ticket for long grass in the month of June. We had 2 new businesses in June, Publication Point over on Monticello and Union Home Mortgage at 425 Joliet. Yesterday, we presented, the storm board did, to the Lake County River Basin Commission. We're looking at doing 2-stage next to CVS and then all through Briar Ridge along the creek, which they really like the project. So we'll find out if we get awarded in August, but I think we will. 2145 Hart Street, I just wanted to talk about that house that Adam said we acquired. We've already had the meters pulled. Public Works pulled the water meter. NIPSCO's pulled gas and electric. We're waiting for them to retire them. So in the meantime, I've talked with police and fire and they're gonna get training going in there. So it's always good to have training in the house, and it's a really clean house. And then once they're done with training, we'll get that taken down. So that should be taken down here, not too far down the road. On August 6th at 9 AM, I'm hosting a NISWAG meeting, which is a stormwater meeting for all the people in Lake and Porter counties. Every community has a representative. It's over here at Plum Creek Center, so I would invite you all to come. It starts at 9 AM. And then after that at noon, it's turning into an employee appreciation luncheon. So Hog Haven's coming and they're cooking there for us. And then I just talked to Rainbow Cone Ice Cream, and they've donated their stuff. So they're coming and giving everyone ice cream that day for free. So I thought that was really nice of them. August 6th, it's a Tuesday. And then on a personal note, today's my anniversary date with the town of Dyer, and I just finished 30 years. So
Right, I explained to a golden buzzer, but I didn't get it out.
It's a silent buzzer.
And I was counting on Justin to have all the confetti there and
Next up, we have the fire department.
Yes, for the month of June, we answered 151 total calls for service. We logged 1,112 hours of training. Continued all of our community risk reduction initiatives. We'll be putting out some more posts for smoke and CO detector installs as well. We're very busy in the month of June and so far in July installing those in town of Dyer residents. We formed an agility test committee. They're reviewing our pre-hire agility test and annual department ability tests. Truck committee has been formed to design the layout and operational ability of the new quick purchase. So I'd like to thank everybody on the dais and that was involved in obviously the approval of that. Firefighter Mano passed the Franciscan EMT Academy. He's going to be taking his national here shortly. June 8th, probationary firefighters Logan Stein and Ian Mizak graduated from the District 1 Fire Academy. They're already working shifts, responding to a bunch of calls. One of them has actually been on the nozzle at a working fire on his first shift he ever worked. So baptism by fire for sure. Last night, Tuesday nights, today is Thursday, Monday, just threw the rotation of the earth off a little bit. Tuesday night, we onboarded 4 new on-call probationary firefighters at Station 18. Just saw them drive away at about 4:45 to make it to their first class tonight at 6. So felt like a proud papa sending them off to their first day of kindergarten. So they're going to do very well. We got approval for a conditional offer for candidate number 2 on our career hire firefighter EMT list. And we had approval Tuesday night to onboard one more paid on call as long as they pass their agility test and written, and one more part-time firefighter. And also for the 30th anniversary guy, Brian Lane's been a huge help in working on a project that'll benefit police and fire in Spillman, so that we could properly identify and have the pertinent information for all of our waterways in town. I mentioned the box alarm. We have a box card in place for water rescues and things of that nature, and having that valid information right at our fingertips inside of our apparatus and on our phones even in this day and age. Brian and I met a couple weeks ago and he pretty much took the lead on it, and we truly appreciate, like you said, teamwork and collaboration, getting that done so that not just now, but future generations of public safety and Dyer will have all that information to serve people on their worst days. And that's it for the fire department, unless there's any questions.
I never realized that you had to know so much information about a waterway. I mean, we have all those, retention and detentions and, whether there's silt, fish, how deep is it? How wide is it? But that makes sense. Then
Yeah.
you're ready to go.
I mean, and you got to think too, even the waterways we have that move, there's knowledge you have to have, and there's a certain point that water becomes a danger to even us putting responders in the water. We're all surface water rescue certified. The bulk majority of our department is swift water rescue certified, but you'd be surprised that just a small movement of water on that creek sometimes is actually considered swift water. So having the gainful knowledge, even on those retention ponds that just look still, the pond at 81st, we call it Faith Church Pond. That's what we're labeling it as. That thing's 21 feet deep. And
Wow.
something occurs in there, that's something that we need to have the water rescue team en route immediately with divers. So yeah, it's a ton of stuff. fire service 40 years ago was just kind of answering two different things. Now you are a Swiss Army knife of knowledge and have to be for the citizens. So, yeah, that's why we put in so many hours of education.
Good analogy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Next up, police department.
For the month of June, there were 689 incidents, 33 arrests, 21 accidents, 265 citations, 553 warnings. As President Starkey mentioned, the National Night Out is August 6th. It'll start at 5 p.m. to ends at 9 p.m. It'll be at Central Park. Right now, we have 50 vendors. We have Little Obi, which is a CN Railroad's little train that'll be driving around the park for kids. We have the Lake County Sheriff's helicopter that'll be landing, a K-9 demo, along with whatever the vendors are bringing. I encourage everybody to come out and meet the police. And actually, we'll be cooking hot dogs again for everybody. On August 16th, there'll be cop on a rooftop at the Dunkin' Donuts on Route 30, where we stand and we meet the public again for donations, and we go through with the program for the National Special Olympics. Tentatively, August or September 6th is going to be the FOP golf outing. You'll see flyers coming out from the FOP. That'll be held at Palmyra at 10 a.m. That's a tentative date at this time. And then on September 9th, we host Northwestern Staff and Command, our second class since I've been here. We have two more of our command staff that'll be going to that, which will be a total of 4 that have been there in the past year and a half. And at that time, this time I have nothing else unless you have any questions for me.
Is there a car show at the National Night Out?
Unfortunately, what is it? Not the Knights of Columbus that did it, but for the Lions Club is no longer together. And the gentleman that was trying to get the show here has found that it's too much work for just one person. So the car show will not be here this year, unfortunately. We were looking forward to it. It was just too much.
Thank you.
A lot, not as many volunteers as there used to be for clubs and groups.
Thank you.
Next up, Neil with road projects.
Good evening.
Hello.
Congratulations to Brian.
Okay.
The 2023-2 Harrison project from 213 to Edmond, utility work is completed, roadway excavation is completed, and that project is on schedule. Getler and Steck, construction is proceeding. Calumet Avenue, Central Park Boulevard, that project is substantially complete. All the programming is worked out quite well, and we expect the final pay request to be on your agenda for August once we receipt the contractor's documentation for closeout of that project. The 2024-1 resurfacing that Frank had mentioned earlier, that contracts are completed, NDOT approved, and pre-construction meeting, we held that last week, and Milestone will be beginning work within the next week on phase 1. The 2024-2, that's the application for the reconstruction of 212th Place from Harrison to Madison, including utilities. That is on track for submission by the end of next week, which is before the July 31st deadline for NDOT CCMG. The John Burge project, the topographic survey and utility location work has been completed, and we're proceeding on design engineering, and will include the 2145 Hart Street. And we're going to meet with the insurance office to provide access and coordinate what we need in terms of either easements or acquisition from them to access the project and provide the extension from Hart Street through the town council complex. Any questions?
I have a question about the construction over at 30 and Hart Street. Is the left turn lane light, has that been shortened, or has the timing been adjusted there to account for the traffic and the merge that it goes down to one way?
Directly west of here,
Yeah,
just up to US 30.
right.
That I don't know, because ultimately NDOT has control over that.
Jeff can answer.
Yeah,
to
But
that.
we can request that.
Actually, I've actually already contacted that NDOT regarding that. So again, they have already looked at the site and there was no adjustments made to that location for timing or like that. And everything is operational the way it is supposed to be. So again,
Okay.
nothing has changed. So
I can also answer to that. Recently, we've had a lot of traffic backed up there. And I know that there was a complaint on a certain date. I don't remember the date where the cars were all the way back to the park. I was in that traffic and I observed the reason was it was two back-to-back ambulances that come through. And if anybody understands that Hart and Route 30, as soon as the ambulance trips that, it goes through a cycle. Then it goes through another cycles before it gets back on time. So the traffic was backed up almost to the Pleasant Hill Park. And there was a lot of complaints that came through. We discussed it at our meeting. And I can tell you that the lights are timed right. I sit there every day because it's one of our, actually, Mary and I got caught into it before one time where it was going the opposite way. But the ambulances control that intersection and we get a lot of ambulances right now because of the closure of Illinois. And when everybody shut off in the other parts of the state or the other parts of Northwest Indiana. But that was directly from ambulances. And I know, I'm sure it's the same complaint that we received. Yes. And it just seems like the ambulances come during rush hour.
Right.
And I've also asked NDOT for if they do have any changes regarding their timing and such on US 30 to notify Public Works so that we were aware of any changes and all that stuff. So we're on their list for those alterations.
We could also mention that your police chief has a pickle and he can override the lights at any time he wants.
And the good news is, we have a meeting Tuesday, an update meeting, which we can send out an email after the meeting, but by the looks of it, the interior lanes are done and they should be switching to the outside, so that turn lane should be able to go all the way back now, so it shouldn't be as bad as it's been.
Thank you.
Next up, we are moving on to our ordinances and resolutions. We have 4 of them. The first one seeking a motion to approve, which was tabled from a previous meeting. This is resolution 2024-11, approving the interlocal agreement with Cherville for the Pennsy Dyer Trail.
And I believe everyone's familiar with what this interlocal agreement is for Pennsy Dyer. If there's any questions on it? Adam has previously reviewed and has reviewed the current document, came back from their attorney with only one apparently minor change. Adam, if you'd like to.
Yeah, the
comment.
only change that was made was there was a provision that provided for if the agreement goes to court, the loser has to pay the winner's attorney's fees. Cherville has to get rid of that, which since it cut both ways, I was fine with it.
And they had approved this form of the agreement during their July meeting
Yes.
as well.
Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-11, approving an interlocal governmental agreement with the town of Cherville for the Pensy Trail.
I'll second that.
I have a motion, a second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mary,
Aye.
Jenna,
Abstain.
Mary,
Aye.
Bob.
Aye. Next.
Bob, you'll have 2 places just like me to sign.
Okay. Next up, I'll be looking for a motion to approve resolution 2024-14, approving entry into an agreement with Lake County undertaking community development activities.
And if I can, Chairman, this is Tim Brown from Lake County, who basically runs this program or administers it.
Yeah, good evening. I'm the executive director of the department, but we've been doing this one for a long time with 16 different communities, including Dyer. I know Mary's seen it a number of times over the years. In fact, I've been here a few times in the past. Every 3 years, we have to renew our agreement so that we are considered to be an urban county. We are only one of 2. It's us as Lake County, and it's Hamilton County, which is also an urban county. What happened is way back when they did HUD and all the funds that go through the Department of Urban and Housing Development, Gary, Hammond, and East Chicago created their own individual entities, and the rest of us were just hanging out there, didn't have anything. You had to compete anytime you wanted to do HUD funds with every other municipality your size throughout the United States in order to get funds. And it wasn't working very well. Very few people were getting anything other than the 3 communities that were called entitlement cities. So that's what created this department in 1984 as an urban county by having these cooperation agreements that you're looking at tonight. For every 3 years, we renew it. And then every 2 years, you guys get an allotment of funds, and frankly, I can't remember, but are you 100 and something thousand or? just short of
About
it?
70-some thousand each
70,
year,
yeah,
roughly.
70,000 every 2 years. It used to be when we got a lot more CDBG funds from HUD that everybody was funded every single year. But as those funds get cut back, then we had to go every 2 years. I mean, when I was with Cedar Lake, when I was town manager down there, we were getting 22,000 a year. And you can't do a thing with 22,000 a year. You can't pave a street, you can't even put in a culvert pipe for that kind of money. So that's why they went to every 2 years, so that it double up the funds, so you had more time to get more stuff done. We're doing a lot of ADA stuff. In fact, we've done a lot of creek stuff here, a lot of ADA stuff here in Dyer too. Sometimes it gets difficult to find areas to do projects because it's supposed to help low to moderate income folks. Some of our communities like St. John and Dyer, you don't have an amazing amount of low to moderate income folks that live here. So that's why we end up doing an awful lot of ADA stuff, because that still qualifies for the use, or demos. Demos always qualifies because you're eliminating blight. So that's one of the things you can always do with the HUD funds. So anyway, if you have any questions, I don't know if you guys sign everything tonight, or do you wait?
Yeah, they're gonna be signing. Tim, do you need an original back or?
Yes, I
Okay.
need at least one. Yeah, and that's mainly of the agreement, not so much the resolution. The resolution is your stuff. I need the agreement with the originals. And if that's tonight, I'll stick around for it. Okay? You have any questions?
I actually do. Being a layperson to HUD and everything,
Yeah.
we go to a lot of people's homes. Can this money be used to help Dyer residents as far as, i.e., we ran into situations where people couldn't afford, and there is no way for insurances sometimes, depending on what insurance they're on, to help with the possibility of wheelchair ramps and things of that nature. There used to be a lot of private funding programs, grant programs, UAW, a bunch of other things used to do it, but COVID kind of put a stop on everything. Can those funds be used for this, or is that a no?
Well, theoretically, the answer is yes. However, you'd have to be able to coordinate them to get a bunch at one time.
Got
And that's the difficulty behind that.
Understood.
I want to leave you my card, and you need to email me, because there's an entity that does rental of the ramps for a temporary time period where you rent it and then they get it back after the rental is over. And it's typically a one-time fee for as long as they need to use it, as long, 1 year, 10 years, whatever. But whenever they move on, and then that ramp goes back. So I'll leave you my card.
Appreciate
the
that.
meeting. We can talk about it.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. That it? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-14, approving entry into an agreement with the Lake County in undertaking community development activities.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I reviewed this agreement as well. It is a renewal agreement, so there's no changes from the one we have. And in case it wasn't obvious already, you, as a recipient of federal funds, you are, how do I put this politely? They have you by a very sensitive place, so.
Roll call, please.
Mary,
Aye.
Jenna, abstain. Mary,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye. Next up, we're seeking a motion to approve resolution 2024-15, approving entry into the Mavis agreement.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-15, approving entry into the Mavis agreement.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mary,
Aye.
Jenna,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Bob.
Aye. Next up, I'll be seeking a motion to approve resolution 2024-16, a transfer of funds.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-16 transfer of funds.
I'll second that motion.
Motion a second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mary,
Aye.
Jenna,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Bob.
Aye. We have no old business. On new business, we were approached by the St. John Township trustee, inquiring if Dyer was interested in a sponsorship for the upcoming BAV walk. There is interest in that. I would accept a motion at whatever sponsorship level there was an interest in. If not, we can move on.
I absolutely think we should sponsor. I'm just not certain at what level. Have we done this before in a certain level? Where do we, what did we sponsor? Do you remember?
I don't believe we've sponsored DAV before.
Yeah, I don't recall
I
that.
know we participated.
Yes,
but
correct.
I feel like if we step in, then we can always move up, but it's kind of nice to step in. I don't know that we should go at the top level, but perhaps at the beginning level of 150, and then as we move up, as we participate. So that's my thought on that.
Like to make a motion for that. We'll see.
I was looking to see
Oh.
some nods. I didn't know if there were any more nods, like it was okay. But, I make a motion that we would sponsor as a Bronze Star sponsor to begin with here this year. For 2020.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mary,
Aye.
Jenna,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Bob.
Aye. Any and all? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Voice vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Move on to the charities.
Yep. I'd like to call the July 18th, 2024, 6 p.m. Meeting of the Dyer Redevelopment Commission to order. We've done the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do we have any citizen input? We'll move on to the consent agenda. Seeking a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the June 20th, 2024 Redevelopment Commission meeting, claims totaling $969,195.12.
I'll make that motion to accept the consent agenda with the minutes of the June 20th, 2024 redevelopment meeting and the claims totaling $969,195.12.
We have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mary,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Jenna. Aye. Mary.
Aye. Next, we have old business, the John Burge Lane Schulte Street project update.
Essentially, I think Neil sort of covered that in his update. Essentially, they did topographic survey. They're working through design elements of it. There's been discussions with staff, with the ARS group, which is the planners for this project. And we're kind of putting together those elements. And I think Neil had said in 4 to 6 weeks, we should have a design for that project. If that accurately reflects everything, Neil. So, but that's more or less where we're at with the project. So it's well underway and in obviously engineering design.
Next, we have the 213th Street and Sheffield Avenue concepts.
Now, this one, I think, is a bit more challenging for us. Basically, what we're trying to do is trying to come up with a concept, obviously, for that particular area that everybody is supporting, right? And the last meeting, there was some different items that were presented with colonnades and pergolas and this type of stuff, and there was clearly not an appetite for that. I think on one end, we had some individuals think, well, maybe we just keep it as a lot. A grassy lot with the trees that are there. And then others thought we should put some elements into it. So what I was hoping to get tonight was some additional direction on that. What you have out there right now is on a photo here. Moment. That's what I know you guys drive past this all the time and you see it, but that's what we've got currently. So the question is going to be, this is our starting point. This is the canvas. What is the council interested in doing? Again, we threw out a lot of different ideas last time, trying to get better direction. So the first question I'll ask is, are we interested in doing more than essentially what we have right now on that site?
I had sent in some pictures of public art that I have seen in other places. And one of them was a constellation, was kind of on a flat surface that people could actually see what the constellations were. Another one was a compass rose. And there's all kinds of compass roses. If you go and take a look at them, the other idea is a sphere of some sort, which could become public art. But then again, public art is in the eyes of the beholder. So I don't know if we want to move on something like that, but there's a lot of concepts out there. We just need to make up our mind what we want to take a look at. The constellation was absolutely beautiful, and I did send in some pictures of that.
Yeah, I've got some of what we have there. I don't know if I particularly have that specific picture. I've got some compass rose that are inlaid into pavers.
Right.
I do have some of that to show.
Well, you don't want it too cluttering. I think it's just really nice to not have that gas station there.
Yes.
People are
yes.
enjoying the grassy space. We're not the city of flags. We're not the city, though we do have flags. I'm not saying that's wrong. We're not the city of veterans, though we do have memorials, and I think that's great. We're not the city, it's not like we're the
Right.
popcorn capital, so we don't need to popcorn. I think that we need to kind of individualize things like we've been doing. So over here, we have this, like we're talking about the different amenities for the different parts of town. Always seating is good. I think seating is good. I think, but I don't think we need to make it super cluttery. Something inlaid like that, that's art, I think it'd be beautiful, because it's
Yes.
not, taking airspace up. I
Right.
mean, we looked at some of those things and I'm like, oh my gosh, we have so many telephone poles down there. We don't want to add any more
Right.
poles on that
Right.
street. But yeah.
Just one thing I would add to this conversation, when we acquired the property and went to court for it, we said that the plan was to turn this into a park, so we should at least make it look like a park at the
Right.
very minimum.
Oh, certainly. I think seating, like I said, seating and having things, but I don't think we need to like build up all this stuff around there unless maybe it's green or plants or something, but having that down and.
A passive park would be
Right,
most
right.
appropriate, because I think that people heard park and they thought that there was going to be all kinds of amenities in there for children. Well, it's just not for it, but a passive park is something that's quiet. And I think probably when I saw of the compass rose was a beautiful, beautiful structure, and it had a fence around it so that nobody could destroy any. But again, the constellation was beautiful. So go look online and take a look and see if you can find something that's.
Well, I think if we start a little minimal, kind of like stepping into things and then
Right.
see what happens with the traffic going that direction, see what kind of businesses build up along there,
Mhm.
what would be necessary for the residents. Perhaps there would be something a little more or something built up or
Right.
a sign but right now, to go to that extent, I think is a little far reaching, but having a passive park and maybe
Yes.
things low and then building up as you see how things go.
Right.
I mean, I think, would you be interested? I know there's discussion about flags. Okay, are we looking at a flag or flags there? I mean, they're depicted in some of these renderings. Is there an interest in that? And if we look at individual elements that we might put there.
I'm not against a flag. I don't think it needs to be the focal point. Before on one of them, I think they showed them toward the back, I think.
Right.
Correct.
Toward the
Yeah, that's,
back.
Is that flagpole still there? Did we take that
The
down?
big
It's down.
flagpole's still there, but from what I was told, it's not workable and can't stop.
Usable.
I was gonna say, there
Ah.
was some question as to whether or not you could repair the,
We had someone look at it.
And that was what was shown before, again, in this particular, if you go back here, you have these entrance here, you got this paver entrance that this corner accent, you know. Is that something that you'd like to have there, you know? Obviously, you see all this landscaping here. I mean, and we have to keep in mind too, we all love trees and we all love plantings, but obviously there's the maintenance that goes with it.
Exactly.
So that like, okay, you know, we're not interested in all that landscaping right now. Okay, then we can kind of take that out in terms of coming up with concept. Or is it better for me to just send, I mean, we can spend lots of time on this. This is probably maybe more of a study session item, it seems, because I think there's not a complete consensus. Would it help if maybe I just sent a menu out of options and then you guys kind of just
That
give your
would be nice.
thoughts?
Yeah.
That's a great
And or we can spend time here. I'm trying to get a sense. I guess it seems as though we want to do more than just the grass. Is that accurate?
I agree, but
somewhere between just the grass and what we saw last time.
Okay. Yeah, because we
I-
can go in here and do, you know, we got some of these center items where you can have, you know, corner accent, you have some pavers going in here. Maybe you could do some ornamental bushes here, but you don't have to, right? And then you can have something in the center over here, you know.
Some seating or something.
Yeah, here's some of these inlaid compass roses as an example, and I can send these out and I'll make sure that I get what
And something
Mrs.
like
Candace
that,
has
that's
out to you as
fantastic.
well. What's that?
I said something like that is fantastic.
And I think it's something that we want people to be drawn in because they're curious, you know, what's over there. Yeah, and I think probably the bigger compass rose than I've given Frank an example of one. It showed different dimensions, what was in this direction, what's in this direction. And it was a beautiful structure, but you know, again, we're talking about something that's going to cost some money possibly. The other one is that one was raised up so that there's a gate around it, but people can still see. It's like a sundial. Just something where to create some curiosity, not only for children, but also for adults that they want to go up there and see what's going on over here. You know, the constellation is a beautiful idea. So
Yeah, we can kind of put together, I know you guys talked about like a sunken area, interested in a sunken area, obviously that's a little bit more elaborate, or just a central area.
Yeah.
With maybe something like the
Exactly.
compass rose, maybe some seating or an area to put
Yes.
seating around it. And then maybe you work a flag and maybe you don't. And then try to keep it as maintainable as possible.
Yeah.
We talked about having digital signage there. I know there was a couple individuals expressed maybe doubt in necessarily having that there. Do we have any kind of consensus on whether we include that?
I don't think that it's necessary right now. I think once again, if you create something that is a little less complicated, you can always add it. But right now, I don't see that that's necessary. I mean, when I think of signage, I think, you know, when Brian Lane was talking about who's over, what was it, Brian? It was Justin, who's at the parks, you know, how they're hosting all that. I was thinking, we have a sign that says, welcome whoever to Dyer, that you're coming to Dyer to host your event. You know, I think we want to welcome people to Dyer for those kinds of things, but no necessarily there yet. When we see what happens.
Right.
there,
Yeah, the idea of that digital sign was, I guess, you know, it's somewhere in that corridor was the thinking, whether it needs to go there, because we obviously have it on 213th, we have it over here on US 30. There was talk about maybe putting it south on Sheffield Avenue, and then at some point getting one on Calumet, but of course getting one in that part of the corridor where we expect to get a lot more traffic with the train station and just people commuting through there in general.
Did that have a wayfinding sign on it as well, or is it just a digital sign?
It was our informational sign, kind of mimicking, at least initially, what we have on the two signs we have right now, just to kind of get more information out to the residents. So that was the thinking. I mean, it wouldn't be the centerpiece of this. Now, I think, and maybe let me clarify too, because that, if you look at the site layout, that would be somewhere right over here. That would just be in the corridor. It wouldn't be like a focal point. Of
Yeah,
course.
it says a focal point.
Yeah,
That
it's
would
not a
be-
focal point. It's just, hey, while we're out there and we're doing the rest of this, we can put that in there, make it look nice, and then give an informational board.
Well, and so that I like the idea of some type of messaging board. I think we need to get better as a community about putting our messages out there.
Yeah.
We have this board here, we've got the one at the fire station. I think this is an excellent location with the train starting up here in the next year. Driving past there now, knowing that what's there now, it would be different, you know, there's a couple trees there, it might get lost, but certainly somewhere on that property, perhaps as we're looking at this screen.
Yeah,
Again,
further.
further to the right.
Yeah.
So it's not a focal point.
So it's not a
Yeah.
focal
Yeah.
point, and so,
Right.
if. Frank, can I move your?
Absolutely.
Your mouse, I just wanna move your mouse so I can, well. Somewhere here, again, not exactly,
Not
but,
exactly on the corner there.
yeah, so it's not in the corner.
Okay.
But if we, again, I think it's a great opportunity for, if we are expecting, you know, traffic to go down Sheffield, which after, you know, last time we hope that, it's a great opportunity. We use it for everything now. We advertise everything. I think it's a good spot. If we collectively decide that now we don't want to build that now, what I would implore everyone, because we've seen this how many times with Central Park, is maybe let's plan for it, because what I don't want to have happen is we have this beautiful compass roads, all these pavers, all this stuff. And then 2 years down the road, say, that's a good idea, and realize we have to tear half it up and move 14 trees, because we seem to do that with many of our projects. And so even if we decide that, hey, we don't want to do this now, maybe we can plan for it and get electric to the site or something.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think it's a missed opportunity if we don't do it. Again, not a focal point, not in the center, not some 2-story grand thing. I think, you know, even something as simple as the one at the fire station is.
Yeah.
The
well,
wall
a
has their
subtle,
sign there, so I don't know how that would be,
Yeah, well, and there's you know,
is higher.
it's much higher, and I was gonna say analog, because it's not digital, but you know,
Yeah.
the sign thing, so I think, you know, low and to the ground like we have.
yeah, it's more of a subtle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
aesthetically pleasing, and if you have it low enough, I mean, I'm trying to get some people to look at something like, I want to be curious about this, I want to see what's here. And it has to be a learning environment that, you know, you're going there for a purpose, and you're taking kids there, and you're taking outsiders there to look at it and say, hey, you know, Dyer has this. When we talk about wayfinding signs, the mayor of Noblesville has offered to help us with some wayfinding signs, because Noblesville and Dyer are the only 2 places in Indiana that we have a Gold Star Memorial. And in order to have some consistency, I asked him to show us what his wayfinding signs look like, so we can be consistent and have the same kind of signs, so that people that come here to see the Gold Star Memorial, that they know what they're looking for. So that was another thing that we had talked about. So, but I think we're on a good mood. We kind of have some ideas about what we want, and look them
Okay.
up. There's all kinds of, and of course, there's an expense involved. You know, this doesn't,
Oh, yeah, no, that's
right. and you
absolutely. I
have to
think
be
you've
able
seen
to
some
maintain
estimates
it.
of some of the stuff in the last.
Correct.
We have to
Correct.
be economical now. And then in this next draft, do you wanna, I mean, we would have the center amenity, and obviously possibly, you know, these corner pavers coming into,
Right.
you know, again, the center amenity, that we could have some benches around. Maybe we have a compass rose or something else that we put in the
Correct.
center of that. As far as the different walking paths, I mean, over here, we just, you know, again, we would not start out doing a bunch of landscaping at this point. We can always add it. As far as the walking paths, I mean, you have a number of these going to different areas. I mean, obviously you can have one surrounding this particular area, or of course you can just keep those paths out right now in terms of this first phase of it. Any thoughts on the walking paths that are throughout that?
Right.
I
Is
don't
there?
necessarily know that you need that Y at the bottom there, but I do see the
Exactly, yeah, I
necessity
think-
of the ones into the parking
Yeah.
lot, and then that main one out to the corner.
Okay,
But the Y seem kind of taking up.
And is that a good spot?
Yeah, I would agree
for
with you.
The sign.
Seating?
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Something else.
Yeah,
Yeah, where you were talking, your Y is, you know, the sign on the outside of that, then
Exactly.
you've got the path.
Yeah.
a couple places for seating, yeah.
okay. I think that does help to try to
Yeah.
but I
understand.
think it's gonna, this will improve economic development. Think about that Calumet light. You know, once that
Yes,
light went in,
yes,
bam, people were interested.
Right.
There was always that intersection. But then it was designated something different. It brought attention, like you said.
Yes.
It drew you in because the light is there. I
correct.
think that corner doing that, same thing.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna bring people
Yeah.
in even more.
I think we have a good discussion here. You have some ideas, Frank?
Yeah,
So
this,
you
this
have-
helps. I mean, we
okay.
kind of, yes, this definitely puts it into better focus. And we'll start circulating some stuff to you. And then hopefully we'll be a
He's got a
big step
question. Okay,
closer.
Fire chief, yes.
I don't have a question. I actually have input for the
Oh, good.
RDC for the first time in 3 years. Just throwing it out here. But how does public safety park sound to anyone? You could have a nice
Ooh.
little. Right in that middle there, you could have a statue of a police officer, a firefighter, retirees. Now, we're fortunate. Normally when you see those pop up, it's because of a line of duty death. We're very fortunate. We've never had one on either side, right? But I'm sure they make slides or don't laugh at me. They make like slides or whatever that, like may look like a fire truck. They make a little, playground
Yeah.
equipment that looks like a cop car. I mean, you can have that more offset from the street, but like here, that focal point dedicated to the Dyer Fire has been serving for 109 years. Dyer PD and the marshals go back further than that, so.
There are statues at Elson for firemen
Yeah.
and policemen.
Yeah, I did.
And I know a company that does really, really good ones too. So just throwing it out there. I mean, something maybe like a public safety park. I mean,
That's a good word, first responder park. I think that's a
Yeah.
great idea. But I still think you can have something like a Compass Rose Flat.
Yeah.
And then have the statues around and dedicate it to that. I think
Yeah.
that's a great idea.
Yep.
I think you're just elevating what we believe is important.
yeah.
Yep.
I mean, really,
I think
if you
that's a
think
good-
about it, other than the public safety
Definitely.
building and the fire station, which are obviously super important to any community. I mean, that's a lot of service. You got
That's a great
guys,
thought.
men and women are
Yeah.
putting their life on the line all the time. So,
Yes.
just throwing it out there.
Not only that,
I'm
not-
glad
not to
I
say
could help
something
today.
bad, But not to say you do it for this, but then when you take pictures or do something in particular, it could be at the first responder park.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about it too. I mean, how many people, the original 11 firefighters, and granted, we got some design elements going into the station on Hart Street, but, you can have everybody there.
You could have bricks.
You're up to
They could put bricks,
Right,
yeah, bricks
right.
of the firemen. That would
Yeah.
be
When you're retired,
amazing.
you could have-
That's
Yeah.
a good one.
That's
Yes,
a great
yes.
idea.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the input.
Yeah.
I'm glad I actually helped out.
That they're talking about.
Yeah.
But see, that's what this is all about.
I don't like Dan's comment, but.
Yeah,
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You know what? You're getting them in the grant writing.
I will tell you this, if the RDC, the RDC turns this into a first responder type S park, I will be more than happy to help out with that project. It means that it's showing our gratitude to the police and firefighters that came before us and the one that came.
I like it.
Thank you.
We have it on record now. Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
That reminds me of, something I've been wanting to mention and I bring up is the signs around town that say welcome to Dyer with the big tree.
Yeah.
I really like those. I don't know if putting one of those there, at the center, a sign there, talked about different signs.
I think there's lots of ideas. I think if we create that center amenity, then, I think all of what we talked about still works with what Chief Martin was talking about. And it's how you kind of accessorize, or that's probably not the
Right.
appropriate term, but the different things you can do in the center amenities around it would be things that would possibly be adding to it. And then, then if you, obviously the naming of it would be different. And then if of course it becomes a park, then, Nan and Justin will be able to pay for it. So that takes care of the financing side of it. So it's, but
Joe is the head of the committee though, right?
Yeah, that's
Justin?
right. That's what I thought. Yeah.
I told you, I'm more than happy to help out.
I think we've done a great job of putting a lot of ideas together and a place to start. So and we know that who's going to be helping us out the most would be Chief Martin.
okay, so
Great ideas. Thank you
Yeah.
for the
there's some great
collaboration.
ideas. I think we've got some good,
Okay, let's
much
move
more
on
direction.
to 2121 Gettler Street, the Windmill Brewery property acquisition. We are talking about possibly getting some appraisals?
Well, that would be if the redevelopment commission is interesting in acquiring the property, then we would then go on and request two appraisals for that property. But I guess the first question is whether there's an interest in acquisition. And on your screen here, I have the parcels. You'll see the parcel that's in blue is the one we previously acquired, and this is the parcel in question. And some of the different discussion with it was, firstly, since we're actively redeveloping this area, that it might make sense to control that property by acquiring it.
Right.
There's been different uses that have been brought up and which were in my memo, the different ideas that could be present or done at that site. So what is the commission's thoughts?
I think, from what the historical preservation group has talked about, is looking for a different place for all of the pieces that we have down here in the historical museum, is moving that to a different place that's more accessible to many more people. Because people, they have to come here and then they have to get somebody to unlock the door and so forth. And not that this would be open all the time, but I think that that would be a really great place to, if we could come up with some development about what it would look like, or maybe we could share it with different groups. I think that that would be appropriate, but I think that would be our purpose, is to get it, to put it to good use as quickly as we can.
Well, it's one level, so it's a little more
Right.
ADA compliant, I think.
Right.
Councilwoman Ogrzewicz, we had talked about arts coming in at some places, and it would be nice to have something that could
Right.
do more than just the history there, and it could be arts shown there. I'm not a fan of building services unless you could keep it at the back of that building where the.
And again, those are just ideas that were out.
Yeah,
I mean,
Right.
I just
Because
threw
that
a
makes
list
me
of
think
things
you
that have
want to
been
take
mentioned.
down this building over here, and that makes me worried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Is
now,
that in the plan? Is that why you had that as a list?
Excuse
on the
me?
list? That you want to take down the current building services?
no, there was
Oh,
just,
okay.
there was just different uses. Now, we're doing the John Birch extension, and obviously that building there, it would be easier if it was maybe moved over 20 feet, okay, north, west of there. But if that happens in the future, as we develop everything, that's certainly one option. But again, that was just, the
Right.
purpose of that was just a list of things that had been brought up. Okay,
Okay.
including park activities, so we can have, Justin and Nan pay for. So it, but that had been mentioned as well. I think, but more importantly is the question, do we want to control what happens with that property?
Absolutely.
And then we
No,
can,
Right,
that's a
right.
necessity.
I think that's the overriding issue, especially
That's the
because
necessity.
we've already acquired
Absolutely.
what's above it.
And
I'm
across from
sorry,
it?
yeah,
Yeah.
that, I think at a minimum, we just say,
It's ours.
Yes,
it's ours,
yes.
and then we'll.
I
would agree.
I mean, are there other breweries interested in purchasing it or having this business, other business, because we're losing tax base, bringing in a business, this property, we've been paying taxes, so what
yeah,
types of businesses could we bring there?
if I can answer to that, I mean, one of the options is also, with, navigating the attorney side of it is, what we had looked at with this other property, the property in the north wasn't, was possibly some type of redevelopment and some other type of business that
Right.
would complement what we're trying to accomplish there. Now, there was some mention of putting town services of some kind or another, town facilities on it. But that's certainly, I mean, that's a consideration. But when we redevelop an area like this, having other kinds of businesses come to that area. Now, we've talked about different opportunities in here. We've talked with the hospital, some of the things we talked about
Right.
with Windmill Brewing before, unfortunately, they had to close their doors. I think there's also a lot of interest in creating that kind of opportunity at that site in that plaza area for the residents and others. So, I mean, I would say that's every bit as much on the table as
Right.
as using it for town facilities. I do agree. And we want to create, as we talk, we want to have more activities, more amenities for our residents and having more of that different culture that comes with it. So, I mean, and we were
Correct.
hoping to accomplish that with the Windmill Brewing or groups like that. So I would say that's still in the future of this site. So
Cause I'm
this,
just mentioning it because of the church down the road on Hart Street that was just brought up, that they're.
Well, that's not on the tax rolls, it's a church.
Exactly,
Right,
exactly.
right.
That's why I'm a little more interested in that property than
Yeah.
this one that,
Yes.
it's like
This is a
turnkey
key.
to another business.
Yeah.
It seems like it's more in
Once
that
that road is
line.
fixed, though, it could bring interest for other things as well.
Oh, I
Once that
think
road
so
is
too.
repaired.
Right now.
We don't know what the hospital's gonna do either.
And that may be the benefit to having both of those.
Yeah.
This area here looked not unlike the CVS area. where that was, we needed. We
Yes.
needed to do this, these two shades here.
Yeah.
In order for it to be developed into something useful. So whether there are options on our end, historical society, parks, whatever. Ideally, I mean, but in my opinion, you could develop
I
that
agree.
into something that pays taxes.
Yes.
That is also something for the rest of.
And I think
whatever
that
may be.
that was a big part of the thinking when the other parcel was acquired. Was not that we're gonna go build a town facility, there's stuff with parking and stuff, but there was a talk about getting, and again, that was where we were looking at, okay, we have that property and maybe we would work out an arrangement with the existing brewing company that was there to sort of expand their offerings. I mean, I think that's always been there's been a lot of strong arguments for that, and I think that was certainly a direction everything was headed in.
Right.
So to
Until they
speak.
gave their answer.
Unfortunately, yes, and so that was the direction it was headed in before, and I think there's certainly a lot of people that like to see it head back in that direction. But by taking control of the property, then we don't have to,
Right.
we don't know what else we're gonna get there now. We're not gonna be able to control what that is.
Absolutely,
I mean, we
absolutely.
could get,
Rather have a
we've had
question.
different people inquire into that building in the past, and it was none of, unfortunately, some of the uses that I think anyone would be,
Yes, thank you.
pleased with having here, so, but this way it gives us that.
Yeah.
That level, we can shape the destiny of that property, and
So
So you
it's-
mean we would buy it and then sell it to somebody,
Could, or
like
yeah.
purchase it as an investment to hold until a new business?
we would
Something that we
repackage it now.
wanted to be there instead of something that could just go there that we really don't want to go there.
And
Okay, so we have a commitment, at least on 3 people here.
to get appraisals, this is just to get
Yes.
appraisal,
Yeah.
to see what it would cost us to get this, and then you can obviously decide to proceed or not. There would probably be some additional discussions in terms of
Okay.
the uses that we'd have with this property with the attorney in terms of how we'd approach it thereafter. But this would just simply be to obtain appraisals at this point and see what we're looking at.
Correct.
Maybe that's,
Okay, moving
I
on, we
think we
have,
should have a motion to.
I'll make a motion for the 21 Gettler Street property to begin the acquisition process by going out for
Appraisal.
appraisals.
I'll second that.
we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Hi. Next thing on the agenda is the finance and planning work session for August. I think this is really a step in the right direction.
yeah, and this, I think we've talked about this in parts before, but there's been lots of discussion about the TIF monies, the TIF districts, the TDD, the
Yes.
development district, and how all those pieces fit together and what kind of monies are available today, will be available tomorrow, what they can be used for. And a lot of it ties into all the other planning projects we're talking about.
Right,
Unfortunately, we seem to mention, we only get to give little pieces to the council at a time as they're connected to other projects. And it seems like we don't always give a comprehensive understanding of it. So this will be, we've tried to be efficient with this session. And I know you guys are looking at me because I talk too much, but is that possible? But we would have we have Baker Tilly come in and
Okay.
as well with the TIF, as well as Becca McQuaid on the TIF.
yes,
And the RDA in regards to the TDD, and they would both do like short segments as to what each of those things are in general and how it
Right.
relates to what we're doing. And then, of course, provide some other summary reports of the monies that we have available and what our increments are providing us and how we can use those. But just to try to create a real efficient system where we just kind of focus on that for a single work session. Again, we will keep it brief, but keep it focused on that.
I think that's a great idea because it's bringing in different entities and pulling things together. We can all learn from each other, and that's the important thing. So we'll try to schedule that
So,
August sometime.
yes, if
Okay.
the commission is
Okay,
good with that, then we would set up a work set. We'll circulate some
Okay.
dates and then see if everyone's okay with it. And I think it would be very, very helpful. to
Thank you. I
everyone.
agree.
thank you. Any and all?
Yes, I have something. At the clerk's office, we did not end up borrowing any money from the TIF for taxes. They did come in like 5 days late than normal. But that's because, you have a new leader out there that takes care of all this. Peggy's got a lot of new people underneath her and her staff. So we were all very patient. But we didn't have to borrow, thank God. So thank you though for the offer and appreciate it.
Anything else? Hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor, voice vote?
Aye.
Aye.